Let me introduce you to Snow, my all-white gaming PC, which I'm going to be giving away to one of you. Today's UFD Tech video is sponsored by DataCamp. They're an online learning platform that makes it easy to build data skills. You can learn at your own pace with interactive courses and hands-on exercises. You don't need previous data skills to get started. DataCamp has courses for all different skill levels, whether it be super noob like me or people who are deep down into the data fundamentals and data visualization, or data science coding courses in Python, R, and SQL. If you need introduction to Python or any of those, they have that. Data science for everyone, they've got that. Data manipulation with pandas, definitely as well, which is not the same as the animals. And it's super easy. You learn directly from your browser. DataCamp doesn't require any extra software. They have over 350 courses designed by top experts currently working in the industry to develop the skills you need today. So you can take a free assessment, which gives you personalized learning recommendations to grow your data skills, whether it be in machine learning or again in data visualization. You can advance your professional career and build new skills and stand out from your peers with in-depth data analytical skills and their data science certifications. So invest in yourself, use my link in the video description box below, and all first chapters of DataCamp's courses are free. Get your learning on, my friends. I'm a huge fan of lifelong learning. It's something that I want to aspire to. I want to be deep into my 70s, 80s, 90s, still learning new things, and I'm so thankful for sponsors like DataCamp. So check them out at the link in the video description. So as mentioned, this is one of the first all-white PC builds that I've done, and it was initially conceived as Snow because it was supposed to be like in collaboration with the fact that I just moved up north to Pennsylvania and I'm gonna experience my first real winter as an adult because I've been living in Florida and South Africa, which don't really have all that many seasons. But because we had our charity live stream, which you can check out the recap of right over there, I am giving this away to one of the people who actually participated in that event. So I'm gonna tell you about the parts, I'm gonna tell you about the performance and kind of what you would need in order to replicate this build on your own if you decided to do it at this moment. So for the most part, I actually purchased all of the components that are going into this system with the exception of the NZXT Z490 motherboard that's in there. The N7 was courteously provided by NZXT, but serves as a great white foundation for the build overall, with very few like black components sticking out. However, it's not a perfectly white motherboard. There are very little of those. Typically you get them in like white and silver. I think the black and white kind of helps to give a little contrast to the design overall, but everything else I picked up. The things that I got on sale were the i7-10700KF, which I picked up for $240, and then the ID Cooling FrostFlow, which I was able to pick up for $50. Everything else was kind of purchased at retail for the total value price of this system to come in at roughly $2,000 in total market value in case you wanted to build this yourself. So let's go over the rest of the specs. The RAM is the Corsair Vengeance RGB Pro. The white version is DDR4 3200, and there's 16 gigs of it in there. The FrostFlow 240 is the cooler, as I mentioned, but I didn't use the fans that came with the FrostFlow 240. Instead, I used the fans that came with the case, which is the Montech X1 White. This thing is actually a pretty decent value, coming in at $50 when I picked it up. It also includes 5 fans, which makes it so that it actually has pretty decent airflow and cooling, which we'll get to the benchmark numbers in just a bit. But the only caveat and the thing you're going to want to look out for when it comes to the X1 is number one, all of the fan colors can only be set to either on or off, and it's only RGB. You have no addressable options, you have no lighting options. It is just this rainbow puke design that's right here. And then caveat number 2 is that all of the fans are powered by Molex, and so you have this giant Molex squid that you have to deal with at the back of the case, which is just a little ridiculous and feels a little like I'm living in 2008, but it does, I mean, the value of the case can't necessarily be understated. You have the mesh on the front for that airflow performance. You got 5 fans in here to help adequately cool everything, and it can fit a full ATX system. I'm honestly impressed. And the price to performance that you're getting on this case, again, just if you have an aversion to Molex, this might not be the case for you, but I think it does well for a giveaway case. Then for the SSD, we have the Samsung 970 EVO Plus, probably the best PCI Express 3.0 SSD you can get on the market. It's 1 terabyte white version there. For the power supply, we've got the Coolermaster V750 white. It's an 80 plus gold power supply. It's going to do all of the powering that you need. For the GPU, which is the RTX 3070 Twin Edge White Gaming, whatever, White Gaming OC, Twin Edge OC White is what Zotac wants me to call it. It's an RTX 3070 combined with that i7. It's going to be a really decent high-end system for most people out there. Couple of notes when it comes to the aesthetics of the build, the things that bother me a little bit. Number one is the fact that the Zotac GPU actually has these like buttons on the fan that give it like a yellowish, kind of almost yellow snow color, which is what I'm going to call it. It's the yellow snow portion of the actual build. And then also typically what you run into when it comes to all white builds like this is that the power supply cables don't necessarily match. Thankfully, in the case of the Coolermaster, the included cables that come with the power supply aren't too bad. They do have the white overall aesthetic down as well as the black connectors, but I do think power supply extension cables help to give it a little bit more of a higher end look. These are the Asia Horse cables, which you can pick up on Amazon for like 30 bucks. It doesn't actually add a whole lot to the total cost of the build, but I definitely think it improves the visuals quite a bit. Building in this case wasn't really a problem. I live streamed all of these builds over at twitch.tv/UFDisciple in case you want to check that out. But you have the Molex squid you need to deal with, you got the yellow snow GPU, and you have the non-changeable RGB, but I think it reflects really well on all of the white internal components, so I'm not necessarily bothered by it like I would be on other systems. But again, in case you just want a nice white system, you can turn that off, potentially add like a white LED strip right up here to accentuate it in case that's your vibe. But overall, I think this system looks really good, and it's going to be great for whoever wins it. And let's talk about how great it is at video games. RTX 3070, i7-10700KF. What does it do? Well, I tested this at 1440p high settings because that's kind of where I think the RTX 3070 should end up, and we tested it in a bunch of AAA titles. Red Dead Redemption 2, we averaged 77.7 FPS. In Fortnite, we averaged 176 FPS. Cyberpunk 2077, we got over 60, averaging 62.6. Crysis Remaster was a 105 average, Metro Exodus was 95.9, The Witcher 3 121.9 FPS, Assassin's Creed Valhalla managed 74.9, Control was 90.6 FPS average, and then Resident Evil Village coming in with the oh so high 216 FPS. So it performs really well at all AAA titles. Any esports title is going to handle this no problem at 1440p, whatever settings you want to run it on. And now let's talk about the cooling performance, because as I mentioned, this case does have 5 included fans, and it actually wasn't too bad. The GPU running at an average of 69 nice degrees Celsius while it was playing video games, and the CPU averaging 52 degrees Celsius at the same point. CPU benchmark, Cinebench R23 coming in at 2686 for multi-score and 1319 for the single core score right there, which again is highly respectable. SSD speeds, exactly what you would expect at a 970 Evo Plus, 3.5 gigabytes per second read and 3.2 gigabytes per second write. It can handle all of the COD Warfare downloaded and writing you want to do to this gosh dang thing. It'll handle it like a beaut. Overall, great performer, looks really decent. Big thanks to NZXT for sending out the Z490 motherboard. I do think that that's probably the only part of this build that is a little off, like the black accents at the top VRM cooler and the black PCB could probably be replaced with a motherboard that's closer to an all-white setup. But personally, I think it provides enough contrast when you have the cable combs added in, as well as, you know, the fan cables that are gonna get added in as well. It kind of just makes it so that the rest of the black aspects of the PC don't stand out as much, because you have the overall vibe being slightly black and white, but mostly white like snow, which is exactly what I was going for with this PC build. Have you tried to do an all-white build before? Let me know down below in the comments. And now that you're done watching this PC build, which is being given away, which the winners likely have already been contacted regarding this, you should go check out the video that I did recapping how we pulled off a cross-country live stream. And I'll see you in the next UFD Tech video, my friends. Cheers.